Do we have a guest? All right, Avinash, good afternoon for joining us. He's going to cover the market on a fundamental side, and then Samit Chavan of Angel Broking. Samit, if I may first start out with all these public sector banks, PNB, Union, Central, Allahabad, OBC, Andhra, BOI, Karnataka, Canara, UCO. Where do you find the best strength out of all these?
Yeah, good morning. From this piece, yes, SBI, PNB, Bank of Baroda and Canara Bank, these are our preferred picks. PNB has seen a huge rally in last couple of months, and in last 4 days it has corrected a bit after posting a new high of 136. If we look at the overall daily chart, it has completed its corrective move, and it has precisely tested its daily 20 EMA, which was around 116, 117. And today we are seeing a good traction in this counter. So this becomes a buy on depth counter. We expect the stock to surpass 140, which has become a major hurdle now. But looking at the overall weekly chart structure, which is in a strong mode, we expect the stock to move towards 155, 158 over the next few weeks. So from this space, PNB, yes, SBI, Canara Bank and Bank of Baroda, that remains our preferred picks.
Avinash, good morning. There was great emphasis on the private sector banks over a period of time, but we've seen that disappointment punishes these stocks very severely. Disappointment in terms of expectations, and we saw that in Axis. Is it time to be a little more balanced between private sector and public sector banks? Because the public sector banks are treated as if they're going to go out of business, and private sector banks have been valued as if they're going to continue for the next 700 years.
Yeah, I think, good morning, Ashu. I think clearly the numbers from Axis Bank which came on the weekend were clearly disappointing, and there was a big miss on both the profitability in absolute terms as well as on the asset quality front. And I think, one has to be very choosy within the private bank space also. I think if you talk about Axis Bank or an ICICI Bank, I think we have all seen that, asset quality issues have cropped up quite significantly for both these private sector banks. And our view is that at least for the next couple of quarters, you could see a lot of challenging headwinds for both these banks. I would still continue to have a balance on both the PSU as well as the private banks. And within the private banks, my choice would be on banks like Yes Bank or typically a federal bank. Clearly, from the smaller banks, we also like a Karnataka Bank, which has, posted pretty good numbers for the quarter 4, and even this quarter numbers are pretty good. On the PSU banks, I think we still continue to be slight positive on those large frontline banks, something like an SBI or a Bank of Baroda or a PNB. I think most of the asset quality concerns where, we saw consecutive last 2-3 quarters, large asset provisioning is more or less complete. And I think you rightly mentioned that the PSU banks have always traded on a discount to the private sector banks. So to that extent, the risk potential and the risk trade in the PSU banks is to a large extent largely factored into the price. But I think banks like typically ICICI and Axis Bank possibly could see some more selling pressure. And I think you're going to see a lot of portfolio reshuffling even from the larger institutional investors, largely going into the PSU frontline banks and into the smaller private sector banks where possibly growth and asset quality concerns are not, that largely magnified.
In fact, Avinash, a very interesting scenario is happening that the space that the private banks are in, which is the retail customer, is getting amazingly overcrowded. Every NBFC worth its name, every broker worth its name is turning into a housing finance company, consumer finance company, all kinds of companies. So some would say that all these private players have almost surrendered the corporate account, but we all know corporate accounts are still 80 to 90% of the business. Maybe retail is growing, but nobody can grow without corporate, and you're leaving all that to the PSU banks. So if an economic pickup comes, they're the first beneficiary of all this.
No, I think, Ashu, obviously the private sector banks won't leave the entire cake to the PSU banks, but exactly what you mentioned is right, that in this scenario, I think clearly both the private larger banks which have actually deployed a lot of money to the troubled, corporates, I think they are stuck with a lot of money not being repaid on time. And obviously the corporate demand is yet quite low. On ground, what we have been hearing is that corporate demand is yet to pick up, and possibly only after the first half, some good amount of credit growth from the corporate customers could come in. And that is possibly the reason the overcrowding in the retail segment is bound to happen. You're bound to see margins coming under pressure because obviously almost every NBFC and finance intermediary is offering these services at a very competitive price. So I agree to your point that, obviously the banks are not going to find it very easy, especially the private sector banks. And within the PSU banks, I think clearly the main problem for them is the recovery process and the asset quality stabilization. I think if both these things are considered, and I think SBI has done a pretty good job. The second is Bank of Baroda. So I would prefer to, lie low and, not go very aggressive on the private sector banks. Bank of Baroda on declines, SBI on declines, because mind you, PSU bank stock in the last 3 months have shown a tremendous outperformance. So to that extent, they have also risen with the market. So clearly, one has to take a longer term view and a longer time window if one wants to really now look at banking as a sector to invest.
All right. Avinash, I'll just come back to you with some more details. The Reserve Bank of India has imposed some kind of penalty on Bank of Baroda. V.S. Narang is the Chief Financial Officer of Bank of Baroda. Mr. Narang, thanks for joining us. Could you just first elaborate on this penalty? Is this normal, does the RBI usually impose penalties on bank from time to time?
So it is a penalty on the specific incident which was there on the advanced import remittance irregularities which you had been having in the media and earlier report also. That process which RBI investigation process which was initiated at the instance of the bank only, because it was the bank which had informed to the investigating agencies as well as to the regulator the irregularities when they were detected by the bank's internal audit system. So that after informing, the investigation process was carried out, which has been concluded, and as a part of the conclusion of this process, the Reserve Bank of India has found certain things in terms of internal control mechanism of the bank and has imposed the penalty of 50 million rupees.
So, Mr. Naranga, where we are at present in the corrective phase, is the implementation already completed or is going to take some time?
So, see, the irregularities were detected by the bank. So, bank had started taking the corrective actions immediately after detection by the internal audit system. And I will say major part of the corrective action process has already been completed, and in terms of the plugging the loopholes in the systems and process, that job is also over. And now, as a part of the better effective control, we are centralizing the entire operations of transaction monitoring. That process has already begun. So I will say around 30 to 35% of the operations have already been centralized. Remaining part is in process. Will also be through in another 3 to 6 months time, because it is one by one all the geography-wise the transactions are getting centralized one by one zone. So that process is on. Remaining process part, the whatever loopholes were there, they have already been plugged. So we have ensured that such type of irregularities do not recur again.
Could you just give one insight into where it was? Like, was it into the loan ratings, or is it actually was into the overseas transactions where this actually irregularity you were able to detect?
No, the thing is that overseas transaction, the second leg of the transaction had been to the other banks, so I will not be able to speak much about that. But the remittances had gone from the accounts with our one of the branches and were below threshold of value. So now what we have done is that in terms of the such transaction, what we have done, that the cooling off period in certain newly opened account that has been introduced by the bank, the KYC and AML processes which were there, they also have been strengthened. It is happening only in our back offices, such account opening process at the branch level. We are not doing it. The centralization of the transaction monitoring system that has been done, that is alert generation, is happening only at the centralized place. And the forex transactions are also getting centralized. All those steps we have taken. At the system level also, whatever loopholes were there, they have also been plugged.
Right, sir. And could you also give us flavor where we are right now in terms of the forex issue we had, where it was a big transactions in terms of size, 5,000 to 6,000 crores. So is that issue over?
As far as the regulatory investigation is there, that has been concluded, and we are seeing the end of the process now. And as far as the investigating agencies are concerned, whatever information was there, we have fully cooperated with the agencies and provided the information. But because the second leg of the transaction involved multiple banks, so I will not be able to comment where the investigative process with the agencies it is there. But as far as regulator is concerned, we are seeing the conclusion of process by virtue of this penalties.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Narang, for the candid comments you have made about the sort of penalty which RBI has imposed right now. So back to you, Ashu. Penalty, and I think it's a learning curve, long learning curve of PSU banks.
Right. My only thought, Piyush, was that if the Reserve Bank of India actually checks these books all the time and they impose 5 crore penalty, what were they doing when all these NPAs were coming up? Absolutely. I find it very odd that they didn't seem to have any idea. They are also as shocked as everybody. Oh, there are NPAs. Mr. Rajan was around 3-4 years ago. I mean, he should have known. Absolutely. So anyway, I didn't hear of thousands of crores of penalties against the banks then. But anyway, just on a lighter note. All right, thanks, Piyush. Thanks for that update. Okay, let's just go back to the stocks. Should we start first with Samit? If I could just start with Rallis. I don't see much of a chart pattern, but anyway, today it's one of the bigger gainers. And also sugar, Ponni and Parry. Now we're not seeing all sugar companies running up, but certainly these two.
As you said, Rallis India has given a good moment today itself, 4.5% up. But we believe that 226, 227 would be a major resistance level. So the next upward leg would start only beyond 226. So being a momentum trader, I would wait for this breakout to happen beyond 226. In that case, probably I would ride this momentum towards 240. At current juncture, I won't create any fresh long position. In fact, if I'm already holding it, probably 204 would be a stop loss, and I can hold once the stock surpasses 226, then I can wait for a level of 240, 245. As you said, Ponni Sugars has already given a good rally in the recent past. Stock is trading around 340, 350 right now, which is almost the multi-year high. The momentum is quite strong, and we expect this momentum to continue towards to 365, 375 over the next few weeks' time.
Right. Let's bring up Indian Oil Corporation and HPCL. Actually, these stocks are very interesting and have been showing some sharp gains. So I'll put up IOC. And one of the reasons maybe BPCL has taken a back foot is because usually BPCL out of all of them, should really be the standout because, even if you see the retail pumps in terms of quality and standards, I mean, BPCL seems to be way ahead of HPCL and IOC. But yeah, so I mean, it's a beautiful chart as far as BPCL is concerned. Can we also bring up IOC, Oil India, and HPCL? So all the charts look very, very good. And we'll also put a one-year chart, Smita, just so that we can see what's going on. Avinash, is it possible? These stocks had actually been banished from many institutional portfolios. But now, given that you're at least it seems they will allow market pricing. So, and they have been big beneficiaries of fall in oil prices. At the same time, not that much of a reduction in selling price. Could it be that these stocks will continue their revaluation and there may be much more upside, starting out with BPCL, HPCL, Indian Oil, and Oil India?
Yeah, I think, Ashu, clearly, the oil marketing space is going to gather limelight going forward because we believe that, now not only petrol and diesel is making decent money for most of these companies, but even on the kerosene price front, especially where a lot of subsidies are given by the government, there has been some leverage given by the government to raise the prices of kerosene by 25 paisa per month. But coming back to the question whether these companies would be in most of the institutional portfolios, I believe they would be because clearly if you look at the kind of profitability and the throughput kind of growth and the demand for petro products, at least in the first quarter of this financial year, I think definitely volume growth has been pretty strong, around 8-9%. More importantly, I would presume that, the market is obviously now going to give it a more re-rating kind of multiple, provided, crude prices remain soft. There are a lot of other products like LPG also where some sort of deregulation and some price relaxation is given to these companies. The only fear in the short term, Ashu, would be that what we have been hearing, of late is that the government has proposed a scheme where they want to consolidate all the companies into one company. And probably, some sort of QIP or fundraising from these companies could begin. So if that happens, probably that could be a temporary kind of blip for most of these companies which are there in the space, something like a HPCL, BPCL or an IOC. But fundamentally, I feel that earnings growth in most of these companies is going to be pretty strong. at least in the region of 15 to 16% across the board, and that is definitely going to actually push up the stock prices if you talk about FY17 kind of numbers.
All right, let's take a look at Mangalore refineries also. Excellent chart there, also up around 7% today. But even if you look at longer term chart, actually some of the smaller ones like Chennai and Mangalore have done better. But these are standalone refineries. Just be careful because standalone refineries, first of all, they are older, so they can just distill softer crude. So you can go with the emotion. But if you're really looking for fundamental reasons, so MRPL, as you can see, has even stronger charts. You have a 1 year chart on that, and so standalone refinery doesn't have the same bargaining power as an Indian Oil or BPCL, just in case, or HPCL if you're looking for those fundamental reasons. Remember, they don't have the distribution. They also don't have the refinery sizes are not as what we are starting to see. Of course, 70 million ton refineries, that kind of capacity. All right, let's look at paper stocks also. SSI paper, West Coast. I haven't seen Ballarpur for some time. Can we put that one up also and see what's happening there? Samit, if you've looked at Mangalore refineries and then SSI paper, West Coast, also Ballarpur.
Yeah, as far as MRPL is concerned, it was a trader's favorite way back in 2007. The stock, after tanking from the levels of 130, 135, the stock consolidated for quite some time now. And now after 9 years of consolidation, we are seeing a breakout from an accumulation pattern on monthly as well as quarterly chart. So as far as MRPL is concerned, the stock is likely to head higher from current level. The stock can move beyond 100 levels. So any dip would be a very good buying opportunity. Now 70, 72 has become a very strong base. And going forward, if we see 2 months, 3 months perspective for MRPL, the stock is likely to head towards 100 and 105.
What about SSI paper, West Coast paper, or any of the other paper stocks if you look at them?
I mean, generally we don't track this counter considering their inconsistent volumes, but Ballarpur Industries is the stock which is clearly in a consolidation mode. We would rather wait for a breakout to happen beyond 17.5, which has become a very, very major hurdle now. So any breakout beyond 17.5, 18 on a closing basis, that becomes a buying opportunity for Ballarpur, but at current level we would avoid this counter.
All right, let's look at this Bedmutha Industries. We also got Jayant Agro. Jayant Agro, if you have that one, we can put that up. And then Metallist Forgings, METALYST, Metallist Forgings. So Jayant Agro has been strong, was in some kind of a range, but may have broken out again. This is Metallist Forging for you. Wow. So, I mean, essentially it has gap up openings and the candles, which means the closing prices are much higher than opening prices. That's a pretty good sign. Can we have a 1 year chart on all these three? And then I'll check with Samit. Samit, if you looked at this Bedmutha, Jayant Agro, and this Metallist Forging.
I would comment on Jayant Agro and Metallist Forgings. Jayant Agro is clearly giving a very sharp rally in last probably 2 to 3 months time. It's trading at uncharted territory, but the momentum is quite strong, but fresh buying won't be advisable considering its unfavorable risk to reward ratio. But those who are holding it, they should remain invested. 270, 280 would act as a very strong support now, and 345, 350 would be the next level to watch out for. So we would rather recommend hold on Jayant Agro for higher levels of 345, 350. As far as Metallist Forging is concerned, in last 3 days, the stock has given a stupendous rally with substantial rising volume. So momentum would be strong in next couple of weeks' time. 95, 98 levels, these are quite possible. And fresh buying won't be advisable. But those who have already bought it at lower level, they should remain invested. 95, 100 levels are quite possible in the stock.
Avinash, one of the phenomena that are playing out and may not have been obvious is that some of the portfolio management schemes also have become 4,000, 5,000 crores. I mean, they need to do something to differentiate from a mutual fund, because then otherwise I can just buy a mutual fund. So sometimes when I speak to people in the market, they tell me one of the reasons you're seeing this mid-cap rally is because many of these portfolio management schemes are picking up these stocks so that, and because obviously volume is low, the stocks really shoot up. If that is the phenomenon, Avinash, I wanted to ask you what happens when they try to sell? Who do they plan to sell it to? Because the institutional investors are not going to pick it up from them. And usually if retail or high net worth is getting out of that stock, certainly retail isn't going to pick up. Where are they going to place all these mid-cap stocks? And whenever this rally is to end, how will it end?
No, I think, Ashu, you're right. A lot of small PMS schemes have become pretty large, and obviously they have a very significant impact on, mid-cap counters where liquidity is not very strong, especially in illiquid counters. But I would presume that, I think one has to be very clear on the fact that, unless we see decent amount of earnings growth, good amount of size of the balance sheet, I think clearly the fundamentals have to be good unless and until that is not screened and rated. I don't think, most of these stocks obviously run for a few days or months and then obviously cool off if numbers are not strong. As far as selling is concerned, I think, it's a very clear case that institutional look at whenever there's a big bulk deal or a big sellout by a normal institutional investor, that block gets picked up by some other institutional guy. So here this process of selling also is very important, and I think clearly, whatever calls these players take, I believe that these are definitely medium to long term calls. So obviously, if it's a short term call, then I think it upsets the price and it upsets liquidity in the market, and obviously the market cap gets impacted. But coming back to the issue of mid cap stocks, I think there have been many opportunities in the past 3 months, and even as of now, I think one has to be very careful in identifying these stocks and actually be very careful when you look at the investment scenario. These are not stocks which move up every day. These are typically, run by good companies. But I mean, if you have a short-term view, I think it's better to stay away from them. Normally, the mid-cap, I think, timeline should be at least 12 to 18 months, and that is a normal period where actually good money can be made.
All right, Avinash, thanks very much for joining us, and Samit, thanks very much for the technicals. So, Smita, it seems Mr. Salman Khan has been acquitted in BlackBuck. That's according to Bloomberg. Okay, so just in case you follow him. All right, the world of mid-caps coming up after this, and Mphasis CEO and Executive Director is going to be there. You'll also hear from Equitas Management on Market Movers. Thanks very much for joining us. Enjoy the world of mid-caps right after this. Goodbye.